welcome to Standing on the Edge. This is your host, Randy Suplata. Today is Thursday, January 6th, and today we'll be talking about But the Media Says That There Are No Bubbles on the Edge of the Coin. We also have the topic of Learn to See the Invisible during Think Like the Rich, and today's personal story will be No is Not a Bad Word. Finally, we'll finish off the show with What Would Happen If. And by the way, if you like the content presented here and in other videos of mine, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up or like button, and then subscribe to the channel to ensure that YouTube will keep me around for a while. You are listening to Standing on the Edge. When we come back, it's time for the Edge of the Coin. Welcome back to the show. The Edge of the Coin is brought to you by the CS Media Group. We provide the outstanding talent and you get the extraordinary entertainment. The Edge of the Coin is a segment that shows us a way of opening up our mindsets and allows us to explore both sides of any situation. We're going to jump right into today's topic, which is, but the media says there is no bubble. But the media says there is no bubble. Now, here's the interesting thing, okay? Bubbles are bubbles, and they're going to form wherever and whenever they like, okay? I mean, if anybody has ever watched a pot of spaghetti boiling, or soup for that matter, for the longest time, there's nothing, just nice, flat, calm liquid. And then it seems that you have very, very, I don't know, after about 4 or 5 minutes, something like that, you got this little tiny little trickle of a bubble that goes zzz, and comes up the side of the pot and works from there. And after another couple of minutes or so, you'll see another bubble zzz, coming straight up the pot and moving on. And then it goes ahead and moves on from there. But it can take up to another 4 or 5 minutes before you actually first really see a good pop of the bubble. And that means that things are on their way to a good rolling boil. It takes about roughly around 8 or 9 minutes, depending on how big your pot is, how full your pot is, and how much fire or flame you've got underneath that pot. The same exact thing happens with markets. I mean, stock market, bond market, commodities market, currencies, real estate, you name it. It can happen at that exact point. And it seems like forever before anything really starts to rise and take off. But the moment it starts taking off, then you've really got to watch things because they will boil over and get out of hand very quickly unless you're paying attention. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, this show, Standing on the Edge, is for small business owners, entrepreneurs, and investors. And I don't mean your typical hedge fund investor. I'm not talking about the person that does this professionally all the time. I'm talking about investors that are people like you and me that invest in anything and everything without realizing or taking an advantage or even understanding just what it is to go ahead and be investing in. You see something either that A, looks good and you want to go ahead and try it, or B, you want to go ahead and try to go ahead and give yourself some form of insurance to be able to save yourself in the future, or C, you just are wanting to go ahead and get into your own thing, and so you're putting all of your effort into it. That's the general type of investor that I'm talking about right there. The average investor, the person that is not doing this full time, so to speak, okay? And by the way, one of the things that I love about investing are the people that I talk to, the people and my mentors that I've got from there. In fact, one of my mentors, his mentor told him years and years and years ago that the best way to make any kind of market in investments is not to be average. The average investor never makes any money. Here's the reason why. Because first of all, they are like so many people on their diets. They look for something that comes up and sparkles and then disappears, and looks for something else that comes up and sparkles and then disappears, like the little fairy dust store that's coming around, or what's another one? They call them wisps, will o' the wisps. And they're looking and chasing after each of those, and boom, 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 boom. They're all over the place, and they never make any money. In fact, they lose money 9 times out of 10. But they go ahead, and every once in a while, they'll catch that wisp, and boom, it takes them on, wham, so much of a ride that they get scared because they make so much money. They don't know what to do with it. They hold on to it, and then all of a sudden, boom, it crashes down, and they lose everything and more in doing so. Those are the people that I want to talk to, because those are the people that I think really need to understand that that's not a great way to invest in anything. Okay. Diets are the same way. You start thinking and looking, okay, well, there's a keto diet out there. Okay. And there's an Atkins diet out there. Okay. And there's a water diet out there. And that's a fasting diet. And there's all kinds of stuff that you can go ahead and do. Okay. Here's the one thing that I want you to remember is that there is no one perfect diet, no one perfect asset, no one perfect investment plan for any and every one person. Everybody has their own risks that they know that they can go ahead and take, and everybody has their own set of stops that they have to go ahead and give to them and place on themselves, because they are so either scared of moving on, or they want to make sure that they're not going to be able to go ahead and lose, or they're willing to go ahead and run the gambit and run it all because they have enough money to go ahead and do so. So when you do that, I'm talking to a bunch of different people at a bunch of different places in their own lives. That being said, here's what you have to do. You have to decide for yourself exactly what you are willing to risk, exactly what you are willing to do, how far your plan will take you, and exactly how crazy of a ride you want to do it. Now, I am not a roller coaster guy, okay? I'm not. As a teenager, I was all over them. I loved them, unless they went in loop-de-loops. If they were loop-de-loops, I'm like, no, forget it. I'm staying off of them. I did try them just to see if I can go ahead and handle it, but I do not like them, never have. And basically, ever since, I don't know, I guess I turned 33, 34 years old, I just don't get on roller coasters for the most part. I just don't like them, because I would much rather have a nice, smooth ride going around in different places, or being able to see what's happening. I want to control that roller coaster. I don't want to ride on the roller coaster and it get out of control while I'm on it. Just not going to happen. Okay. So with that in mind, I want to go ahead and start off to speaking to several different people. First of all, most of the time I'm talking to the people that are down at the bottom, okay? The ones that have never done this before, or they're just getting into it, or they have a very, very, very low risk tolerance, okay? I want you to remember that, risk tolerance. Because you're the people kind of like me right now. You don't like getting on the roller coasters, but you want to make sure that you're able to go ahead and continually be able to make money and keep what money you've made, rather than just throw it away. Like if you're sitting on top of the roller coaster first hill, and you're just throwing a bunch of money up in the air for everybody down below you to go ahead and collect. That's not what I want to do. So with that in mind, when you're listening to anybody in the media, you have to always take up a grain of salt, okay? And a healthy grain of disbelief. Why? Because what the media says might be true for certain people. 9 times out of 10 will not be true for you. The first thing that you have to do, excuse me, is to make a plan for you, okay? And there's 3 different versions of a plan. And I don't mean the start, the middle, and the ending of the plan, okay? I'm talking about a protection part of the plan, a savings part of the plan, an investing part of the plan, Actually, I guess four parts. So savings and protection would be pretty much the same thing. So protection, investing, and then charitable giving. Okay, now that is all part of investing. Why? Because if you don't plan on doing that, then the other two parts of those plans can really come back and make things very difficult for you later on. But you can't go to the different levels of the plan without getting through the first parts of your plan. So let's go ahead and start off with right now, which is very important to those people that are really wanting to and thinking about jumping into a market because things are so hot that you're going to miss the train if you don't. Okay. First of all, I want you to understand one thing. Okay. Trains come along very often. They come along very often. Even if they're late, they're still very often. If you miss one train, you're going to have another one right behind it. Okay. And 9 times out of 10, you want to make sure, especially if you hear a bunch of people going la 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 la, and they're talking about all kinds of different things that are happening and how you're going to miss out on the market because the best market has just come about and the stock market has done what it's never done before, which is doubled itself in 3 years. This is where I start going, okay, there's a train about to derail right there. I am not getting onto this train or any train unless I absolutely have to right now, and only if I have to take a couple of stops. I'm going to go ahead and find another way to get out to get where I want to go. Because getting in at the top, which is where everybody's yelling about it, is never a good time to invest. This is where the bubbles are really happening, and this is where they're going to start popping, and you're going to hear the term volatility a lot in doing so. Now, what is volatility? It's like a pot boiling, okay? Basically, what's happening is you've got bubbles rising up, popping, and sinking back down again, or crashing, if you will. It's just making a mess as it goes along. And this is not where you want to be. You want to be in the part where it's starting to get to that bubble part, because then you're going to go ahead and start making money. But once things are really starting to pop and make messes, that's when you want to get away from the mess and let everybody else handle it. Because even though they might make a ton of money investing in these messes, unless they're professionals and they know how to do it and they've done it for years and years and years, they're not going to keep that money. They're going to lose most of it. Okay. So, like I said, there's 3 parts. You've got your protection part of it, you've got your investing part of it, and then you've got your philanthropy, or you're giving away your charitable bonuses, if you will, part of it from there. Now, here's the thing that I want you to understand, okay? In your protection part of it, you want to be able to go ahead and make sure that you've got enough money to protect you through a crash, through a downturn, through your retirement, wherever it is you want to go ahead and give that ending point at. That's what your protection plan is supposed to work for you. And your protection might not protect your neighbor. It might not protect your kids. It might not protect your parents. It's not designed to. They need to have their own plan, and you need to have yours. So right now, if you've never done any of this thing, the first thing that I want you to plan on is to go ahead and make sure that you have a protection plan to go ahead and take you through if you happen to need a major medical bill and you don't have insurance, or you've got 4 flat tires because somebody slashed them all and you need to go ahead and replace them all at once, or your car breaks down and you have to have the engine replaced, or even, heaven forbid, buy a brand new car, or you're buying a brand new house and your house decides to go ahead and get flipped and you are now underwater, meaning you can't sell that house anytime soon. You're stuck with that house and that payment because there's no way to get out of it for at least 10 years. Okay, these are the things that I'm talking about right here. I want you to have a plan that's going to be able to take you through that. You can't depend on your job. We've all seen that just in the last few years. There are jobs galore out there right now, according to the government, okay? But they're all very very badly paying jobs. So you can't depend on a good job to carry you through. You've got to make sure your plan involves this, just in case your government, your company decides, hey, we can't keep you, we got to let you go. Therefore, you got to figure out what to do. So, what's a good way to do it? Well, right now, if you have no other way about doing it, and you only got a little bit of money, I would suggest getting an insurance plan, one that's going to carry you through if you lose your job, if you lose your house, if you do whatever, something like that. It's going to pay you to protect, it's going to protect your way of life at the time you're at. And yeah, it's going to be a little expensive. You may have to pay $200, $300, $400 a month in order to go ahead and make up for this. But if you are afraid of your company downsizing in the next 6 months, if you're afraid of the economy crashing again in the next 6 months, if you're afraid that the US dollar is going to go ahead and get wiped out in the next 6 months, insurance is a very good thing. Now, if you can't get the insurance and you want to go ahead and get something even quicker that you can hold on to, gold and silver are really good ideas. Why? Because they hold their value very easily. I mean, yeah, if you take a look at the spot prices, so to speak, and the websites will say, well, yeah, it's only the silver is only worth $40 right now, and it's not a very good idea because it's very expensive. Well, if you take a look at $40 right now and you go, well, what happens if I lose my job and I can't go ahead and buy it at that time? And then all of a sudden, silver goes up to $80 or $120. And yeah, it could very well go ahead and do that. Then it's not going to matter because you don't have the money to buy it in the first place. You always want to go ahead and get your insurance, whatever it might be, when you don't think you need it and it's not as expensive as it will be in the future. And it will get more expensive. Why? Number one, because like I said, we're coming to a point right now where the stock market is going to crash. We have no choice for that. It happens every few years. It does it periodically, period. Okay. Excuse me. The US dollar right now has had so much of it printed over the last 3 years. We're at a tipping point where if we don't do something quick, such as introduce gold backing again into the US dollar, then it's going to become basically worthless. It's already all but there. Thirdly, inflation. Inflation is going through the roof at the moment, okay? The government statistics are telling us that inflation is only sitting between 5 and 6%. But if you take a look at your groceries, you take a look at your gas, you take a look at anything that matters on an everyday basis, insurance has jumped up 100% and more in a lot of times. Sometimes it's come back down a little bit, such as the gasoline, but it's not that much, and it's still hovering a lot higher than it was 1 year ago. Now, that's inflation to me. All right. And that's inflation to a lot of people, especially if they don't have the money to cover it. So you want to go ahead and have something in savings, something that's not going to lose its value, something that's going to be able to go ahead and pay you better on the other side of this crisis. That's the first thing that you want to think about. Secondly, you don't ever want to listen to the media, because the media is going to always 150% of the time talk about the hot topic. The hot topic. When you hear about the hot topic, it's already gotten hot. And that's when you don't want to touch it, because you're going to burn yourself. You want to be able to touch it when it's either lukewarm or still cold and getting hot, because that's where you're going to be making your money 9 times out of 10. We're going to go ahead and discuss some more of that in a little while as well. When you come back, we're going to think like the rich here on Standing on the Edge. And welcome back to the show. Think Like the Rich is brought to you by Hers Decadence. offering luxurious refreshment for your body inside and out. You need to treat your body and that of your lover to a bit of luxury from hers. And you can find out what's available by emailing Heather at hersdecadence@gmail.com. Now, Think Like the Rich is a segment designed to help everyone think past their own circumstances and encourage a different course of action. Today's topic is learn to see the invisible. Learn to see the invisible. Now, this is going to be super important for you. Excuse me. Why? Because if we're moving on from where we were before on our last segment talking about investing, this is the part that's crucial, because if you can't see where things are going, if you can't see the trend, if you can't see which direction everything is going for you, then you're always going to get caught and hurt or trapped. You need to learn to see the invisible. Okay, it's kind of like seeing colors in the wind. If you go back and watch that Disney movie Pocahontas from a while back, all right. This is what I'm talking about. Remember before the last thing I was telling you a second ago that you don't want to listen to the gurus on the television, because they're always talking about the hot topic. And if you touch that topic right then, you're going to get burned. This is what I'm talking about. You need to be able to see the fact that you've just turned on the burner and it's still not hot. So you can touch it quickly and get off it and figure out if you want to be in there or not, or to be able to be careful because you see the fire, you see the flame, and you know that it's going to get very hot very quickly, and therefore you need to go ahead and start putting your pot on top of that flame to be able to go ahead and get it where you want to go, knowing it's going to take a while. All right. You have to learn to see the invisible. You have to know that once you put a cold pot of water onto that flame, it's going to take a while for it to go ahead and get hot. And therefore, you know roughly about the amount of time it's going to take you before you really have to start worrying about that investment. Now, we're going to move on to our second part of the plan, okay? The first part was protection, which we covered in the last segment. The next one is the investing part, okay? Once you've got your protection plan in place, and it is sitting there waiting for you, do not touch it, okay? So for some people, it might be, let's go ahead and take an example. Let's say that your protection plan is only $3,000. $3,000 is what you need because it's going to go ahead and take you through 3 months worth of bills, or it's going to take you into getting a new car, or it's going to go ahead and buying you 6 months or worth of groceries, or it's going to go ahead excuse me, and cover a small medical procedure that you might think you have to have done soon, such as your tonsils coming out or something of that nature, because you got some form of insurance to help you along with it. Don't touch that money. Don't touch that plan. Don't cancel that insurance product. Don't cancel or sell your gold or silver because it looks like it's going up and down. Okay. Once it's there, leave it alone. No matter what the media says, no matter what the website says that think prices are going up or down or otherwise or something else. Okay. Leave it alone. It's there for one reason, for your protection. Once you've got that in place, then you can start working on your next level. And it doesn't mean that you've got it already to invest in. It means you have to save up money to invest. So let's say you want to go ahead and invest another $3,000. Well, you might have to save up yet again $3,000 more in order to invest in what you've got at that point. Now, here's the cool thing. While you're saving up that money, you can still go ahead and put it into the other protection plan if you want, knowing that you're going to take $3,000 once it's there and move it to another segment, which is good for your investing. So if you want to invest into more gold and silver, then that's perfectly fine. If you want to invest in more insurance, that's perfectly fine. If you want to go ahead and invest into other things such as a house or real estate or something, then that's fine too. But you got to go into it with eyes wide open, okay? Because this is money that may make you money or may not make you money. We want you to make money in doing so. So this is where you have to start learning to see the invisible. You have to start seeing that real estate has jumped in the last 2 years from a sane level into insanity very quickly. Therefore, you don't want to touch investments of real estate unless you, number one, absolutely need to, meaning you need a house to go ahead and live in, or you already are a real estate investor and you know that you can get rock bottom deals somewhere because nobody else knows about it, or you've been able to go ahead and invest into these same types of deals for years and years and years. Now, how do you go about doing that? Well, you might be able to go ahead and get it through a tax lien, meaning that people that can't afford their taxes, and therefore you can go ahead and pick up a house for a steal because you paid the taxes for them and you've made money coming back to you in that type of arena. You might have been able to go ahead and find out that there are people that are getting a divorce and they have to sell their house very quickly. They become a don't wanter, and you can go ahead and swoop in and pick up that investment very easily, very quickly, because you've got a lot of money set aside already for doing that. But if you are the average investor and you've never done it before, stay away from the real estate, because for you, you're going to go ahead and get stuck with something most likely that you didn't want in the first place, but you didn't know about it because you weren't savvy enough, or what's the word I'm looking for? Wise enough to be able to see all the pitfalls that you can go and get into. And once you are in real estate, which can be a great investment, once you're into that investment, it is very difficult to get back out of that investment. You can get into it super easy. I mean, all you have to do is have a little bit of time, a little bit of money, and a bank coming back and says, yeah, we trust you. We'll go ahead and give you some more money to be able to invest in. That's easy to get into. But if you try to go ahead and turn around the next day and sell it to just everybody, it's not going to happen. It might take you 3 weeks. It might take you 3 months. It might take you 3 years to sell that investment. You have to be able to sit on that investment the whole time in order to go ahead and possibly make money. And during that point, there are tons of things that could go wrong with it. You got to be prepared for this eventuality if that ever happens to you. So right now, because real estate is insane, it's not a good place for most people to get into. Once the bubble breaks and pops and it makes a mess everywhere, that's a good time to come back in and swoop things up, because then, number one, you're getting the investments super inexpensively. It's a fire sale, so to speak. Number two, nobody wants it, which means that you can go ahead and get something and have the time to be able to get it fixed and not have to worry about it costing a lot of money in doing so. And finally, you'll be able to go ahead and either move into it or rent it out to people that are always needing a place to live. This is a good thing. At the same time, the government will go ahead and give you, if you've invested correctly into the real estate, they will give you tax bonuses or tax benefits on this real estate in getting into that type of arena. But you've got to educate yourself. You've got to see the invisible that's happening up to that point, so that way you know what's a good one to go ahead and get into and when to get into it as well. Now, that being said, once again, right now the stock market is at all-time highs. I wouldn't touch it personally because I know it's about to go ahead and crash. It's going to. Whether it happens tomorrow, whether it happens in 6 months or a year, it doesn't matter. It's going to crash. It always has. There is a difference between a crash and a correction. I want you to understand that, because if you think that stocks are a good thing to go ahead and get into because you can get into it quickly and you can get out of it quickly, this is true most of the time also. But you never want to get into it when everybody else is rushing in, because that's when things are going to go ahead and swell that bubble and burst it very quickly. You want to go ahead and wait till it pops, everything comes crashing down. Okay. Now, the correction is not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about buying the dips where things are going up so high and they kind of cool off a little bit, they jump right back up again, and cool off a little bit and jump right back up again. Why? Because right now the Federal Reserve has said We will keep this afloat. We will keep sending all kinds of money into these different stock market sectors, and they are what's keeping it afloat right now. It is not because the stock market has made a lot of money and a lot of investors are rushing in. The big investors, we'll put it that way. The big investors have already pulled out all of their money and they're going ahead and getting ready to do something else. It's the little tiny guys right now that have Robinhood or the little apps where you can buy things on your own. They're the ones that are rushing in and going, yeah, let's jump on it. Let's jump on it. Let's jump on it. And they're the ones that are going to get hurt like they always do. Okay. But if you think like the rich, like I said, the big hedge fund investors, the big insurance companies, the multi-millionaire and billionaire people right there, they've got some of their money still in there, but 90% of it is placed in other investments. The ones that are not popular, such as gold and silver. The ones that are not popular, such as certain currencies. The ones that are not popular or don't know about it, such as the insurance products that allow them to slowly and continually make money as they go on. They're not as popular as the government tax programs, such as buying any gold mines or buying a uranium mine or buying a coal mine, even for that matter, or getting into electricity and research and development. These are the different things that are going on that the government will go ahead and give you tax breaks for, and you're continually making more and more and more and more money instead of just dropping it into a fund and praying that it's going to go up. These are the ways that people think invisibly or see things invisibly. And I want you to remember that, because we're going to go ahead and move on to our charitable investment part of our plan here in just a minute. You are listening to Standing on the Edge. When we come back, it's time for Tales from the Edge. And welcome back to the show. Tales from the Edge is brought to you by the HRS Foundation, investing in future generations to ensure a better tomorrow. Tales from the Edge is a shared personal example of people and situations that I've experienced on my path to growing wealthy. Today's story is about no is not a bad word. Let me repeat that. No is not a bad word. Now, why the heck would I be talking about no being a bad word right in the middle of my show? Because if you have your first two parts of your investment plan taken care of, your protection part of your plan and the investing or the growth part of your plan, then you want to go ahead and get finally into the part where you get to give back. And this is the most exciting of all, because number one, it's going to make you a bunch of money. It's going to reap you a bunch of rewards. You're going to be a very popular person, excuse me, in doing so. And finally, you'll be able to go ahead and get yourself set up to a point to where you've got everything you absolutely need, and you can start getting things set up for future generations of yours through trusts, through charitable organizations, through banks of your own. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways you can go ahead and do this. And yes, the rich and the super rich and the uber rich all do these things, but they have learned that no is not a bad word. When you hear the word no, basically what it means is one of pretty much two or three things. The first one is that you can't do this. And it might not be that everybody can't do this. It just might be that you personally cannot do this. And there are a number of different reasons for the fact that you cannot do this. And it might be that you're going to get yourself in trouble. It might be that you're going to spark an audit from the IRS because you have never done it before and are not doing it correctly. It might be that if you do that particular thing, you're going to go to jail. There's a number of different reasons why somebody would say no. What you need to do, and it might even be that the fact that the person telling you no, you can't do that, is because they believe that they cannot do this, and therefore everybody cannot do this. But that's not always the case. When you hear the word no, the first thing you want to do is figure out who it is that's telling you the word no. Are they qualified to tell you no? And if they're not qualified to tell you no, then you need to find out from somebody who is qualified if what you are doing for yourself will get you in trouble or will lose you money, or if you can continue doing this same thing. If the government is telling you, no, you can't do this, then you may have to figure out a way to be able to switch it on yourself and on them, and figure out a way to be able to do it anyway within their parameters, within their rules, within whatever it is that they're trying to do, or to keep you from doing it, okay? The government, most of the time, wants you to be successful. Why? Because the more successful you are, the more successful they will be. They are constantly needing money. Now, if you're a poor person, you don't like this because they're trying to go ahead and take as much money as they possibly can from you, and you want to go ahead and hold on to it as much as you can. This has just always been the case. If you're a middle class person, it's worse because the government knows that you're making money, and therefore they're going ahead and collecting as much money as they possibly can from you because you're making more than somebody who's poor. Whoever's poor, they can only give so much, and that's it, period. If you are rich, however, then you have learned several different things, hopefully, that allow you to keep even more of your money. And you may have learned that the easiest way to keep your money or to get more of it back is by giving it away to the best places. Now, this does not always mean your local church. It does not always mean your local art club. It does not always mean gold and silver. But you can give things in a way that's going to allow you to collect the benefits later on, so to speak. Okay, let's go back to charitable organizations or family trusts. Okay, family trusts, which can be a charitable organization, by the way. If you set up a trust in the correct way, and you start putting money into this trust, first and foremost, if you set it up correctly, the government and the IRS and any kind of taxing authority cannot touch this money because it is no longer yours. They have to go ahead and go through the entity and try to get the money that way. If you set it up correctly, there's no way for them to get to it immediately. And that's a good thing because you want to be able to keep as much money into that entity as much as possible. Now, you can then, if you're smart enough, be able to do other things, such as control that entity into buying up gold or buying up real estate or buying up certain stock sectors or investing in different companies to do industry research or medical research or things of this nature. And then the dividends can be paid back to you in a way to where you won't have to pay taxes on it unless you realize that income. If they're paying those taxes back to you as dividends and you're putting it into other things such as other charitable organizations, there's no way the government can get to it. If you're putting it into an insurance corporation that you own, then there's no way the government can go ahead and get it because, once again, it's being invested into you. And basically what's happening is you're taking this money and you're going, okay, I'm not going to get this back in my own lifetime, but I'm going to control all this money, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's going to have the snowball effect going onto it. And it can happen very quickly because you set things up properly. And when I say quickly, I mean this might take anywhere between 3 to 10 years in order to go ahead and really get the snowball rolling. But if you start thinking in terms of 10 years, very quickly 10 years goes by, and it doesn't seem like it's been a very long time in order to go ahead and do so. But you've got to be able to use money that's got leverage, and you've got to be able to use that leverage that is not just your leverage. It's not just your money. It's not just your thinking. It's also talking about your team and your investments and the way you invest and who you put it, where you put it, and whatever you do. No is not necessarily a bad word. You've just got to figure out how to take that no and make it into a yes. So if you've got your protection plan set aside where you can go ahead and continually grow that fund and be able to stretch out any adverse effects longer and farther into the future, this is a great thing. If you've gone ahead and started taking the extra money and you started investing it into something that is not very popular, but you can see is going to be popular down the road, such as, excuse me, tax liens, such as insurance investments of certain types, such as gold and silver, such as real estate that is coming about and is not where people want to live right now, but there is a development that's going to be coming to you in the works in the next 5 to 10 years. Then you might be able to go ahead and do this. If you wait for the crash to come and then you come in and scoop up all of this money with the money you've started saving to be able to invest, this could also be a very good thing. Once you got those two parts taken care of and you're set for the moment in your own investments, because that money is still churning and continually moving and bringing you extra income, then you can go ahead and start thinking in terms of how do you give back and how do you go ahead and get better benefits. Well, if you've already gone ahead and set up a company that can do this, you might start thinking at that point of buying a small or a medium-sized apartment complex and getting a team involved that knows how to manage that complex. And so they can go ahead and take that complex that might have been going on a downward trend and reverse that by kicking out all the bad elements and giving it a good paint job and being able to go ahead and see other things that are happening come about to where you can go ahead and perhaps maybe put on some different types of storage units onto this, or garage units that people can go ahead and park their cars and make them want to be able to come and get into there and stay there for long and raise the rents. And that's going to go ahead and continually make things better as you go along. This is now getting into that charitable type of contribution, because you are investing into an apartment complex that's going to allow more people a safe and great place to live. If you're into that type of thing, this is a good thing. If you're just giving to your local church, it's good also, but it might not be as good of a charitable event for you. So that's why I want to go ahead and make sure that you understand that no is not necessarily a bad word. You just have to make sure that, number one, you understand who you're talking to, whether they're qualified to go ahead and tell you no, and two, if you can go ahead and take that no and make it into a yes, and finally, three, if you even want to do so, because you may want to go ahead and go somewhere else and work it in a different way. It's totally up to you. Excuse me one second here. So with that in mind, that is the third part of your investment plan. If you've got your protection plan taken care of, if you've got your growth part of the plan getting taken care of, and you're finally into the charitable investing, then you can go ahead and once again either invest into other people's safety and security, or get it to where you can take that wealth that you've built up now and bring it back into your next generations to the third, fourth, fifth degree. Banks and uber rich people, old money, so to speak, have been doing this for decades and centuries. But they didn't do it because they decided they were going to go ahead and invest into diamonds or gems, and they had no clue, no clue as to how to tell the difference between rubies and red pieces of glass. Okay, they knew what they were doing. They had a plan. They worked that plan for years and years and years and years. And then it seemed that all of a sudden, overnight, they became rich, even though it might have taken them 20, 30, 40 years to get to that point. So, why am I saying all this to you? Because right now, you are at a point, as well as I and everybody else, to where you may have to say, okay, I'm going to wait. My plan is not ready. My plan is not yet able to go ahead and get into the top of something and make a lot of money very quickly, because I can jump in and jump right back out again in 2 days and make hundreds of millions of dollars. You may have to go ahead and say, okay, let's wait until things crash. Let's wait until things break down, till the explosion has happened, and then we're going to go ahead and swoop up. And that's probably the hardest thing to do, is to go ahead and wait. You might have to go ahead and say, okay, well, right now I'm just going to take all of my money and I'm going to put it into something that I know is not going to lose money due to inflation, that it's not going to get eaten up by taxes. You might say, okay, I want to go ahead and set aside a fund of $10,000, and I'm putting it into gold and silver, and it's just sitting there waiting until the day that I can go ahead and cash it in and use it for something else. You might go ahead and start up your insurance plan, and like I said, there are insurance plans that can go ahead and do this. You can insure yourself to where an adverse event happening to you is going to pay you a cash value immediately when it happens, or continually as it goes along if you have an annuity going on to pay you out. Or it can go ahead and hold its money into that event or into that insurance policy beyond it, and then start investing into other things such as real estate or other insurance products or gold and silver or the stock market, as it starts collecting and building itself back up again. And then you're able to, at the end of that term, cash it in and either start another insurance product to go ahead and do so, or get better and put into other investment products of your own at that point. This is always a good idea, always a good thing to go ahead and do. But if you don't know about it and you listen to the people saying, no, you can't do this, you'll never even try to learn about it. And that is not good in any way at all. So those are the 3 things that I wanted you to go ahead and make sure you understood. Why? Because when we get into our next segment, that is what would happen if, we're going to explore some other things that might be worthwhile to you right now that you can get into, that you might not have thought about, that you might not have even thought were a possibility. And this again is going back into what I was saying last segment, which is learn to see the invisible. So you are listening to Standing on the Edge. When we come back, it's time to close out the show with what would happen if. Welcome back to the show. What Would Happen If is brought to you by DJR Enterprises. Today's topic for What Would Happen If is do, then learn, then think. And right now I can already see the eyebrows raising up. What? What do you mean by do, then learn, then think? Okay. Well, first of all, if you take a look back at any child, okay, any child that is brand new, born into this world and is less than 3 months old, they're still learning how to go ahead and do all kinds of motor function type things. Okay, they just know that they've got people swimming in sooner or later, and they finally focus on whoever it is and learn how to go ahead and smile at that person. And they might have a little whoosh, all of a sudden they got a hand goes by, and what the heck was that? I didn't know what was going on. Whoosh, there it is again. I can't believe that's happening. And they've discovered then very quickly after that their fingers, and they've discovered their toes, and oh my gosh, there's something here that I can actually go ahead and feel happening. And it must be this crazy thing that's this keeps on touching me because I can feel it. I don't know what that is, but okay, it's good. And then sooner or later they figure out, oh wait, I can go ahead and reach and grab something. And this is when you want to start paying attention. Why? Because this is the doing part of that. They learn that they can grasp something. They do it, and that's how they figure out how to do it. They learn by doing. After a while, they hear, ow, or no, you can't do that. Oh, let go, that hurts, or something like that. And then they learn to think. They learn to understand and equate that this action of grabbing somebody's face and scratching it, or grabbing their hair and pulling on it, or taking their ear and tugging it, or trying to grab their facial hair and pulling on it, I mean, or punching them by accident, or headbutting, or whatever, something like that, they go, oh, this must be a not so good thing. It could be bad because I don't like it when I hear these loud ows and yellings at me and telling me, no, I can't do that. Therefore, I need to be able to understand and learn that if I'm going to grab and scratch, it has to be gentle. If I have to go ahead and touch, that's a better thing than scratching. If I'm going to go ahead and pull, that can go ahead and hurt. But if I'm trying to hold on to myself, or if I grab a piece of clothing, it's not going to hurt nearly as bad, and it's going to be a good thing to help me steady myself. They're learning after they do it. They have to do it and make the mistake. They learn from their mistake, and then they equate the thinking that, okay, that was a mistake. If I do this, however, it's going to get better and better and better. Your investing life is exactly the same way. In order to do anything investment wise, excuse me, you have to do something. Once you've done something, then you've learned from it because you've got skin in the game, so to speak. You've got an invested part of your life into that investment, whatever it may be, whether it is a new job, whether it's putting your life savings into an investment policy, whether it's purchasing gold and silver, or buying your first brand new house, or buying a car, whatever it is, something like that. You learn about it after you've actually done it, okay? And then you start to think about it. Why? Because you want that investment to get better and be able to keep you moving faster for a much longer period of time. You don't want to go ahead and purchase what you thought was a Porsche, and you ended up investing in a Yugo because somebody else called it a Porsche and they slapped a Porsche symbol on it, and you've gone ahead and purchased that thing and found out that, wait a minute, this thing, number one, is crappy. It doesn't get anywhere near type of great gas mileage. It doesn't go very fast at all. It's breaking down every 2 blocks. The horn doesn't work. I have to go ahead and crawl through the window because I can't open the door. The door latch won't move up and down. Therefore, I can't lock the door, but it doesn't matter because you can't open the door anyway. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that are going on with that. You want the investment to work for you. So you might go ahead and purchase a vehicle and realize that it's a crappy vehicle, okay? Well, you've learned then that it's a crappy vehicle. You have to then think later on, okay, do I get rid of this crappy vehicle now? Or do I go ahead and put money into it to try to fix the door so I can open it and drive it? And do I go ahead and put a new engine into it so I can go ahead and move on and get moving on? Or do I go ahead and are going to different places? Or do I go ahead and just try to sell it for scrap metal to buy something a little bit better to move on from there? You do something because you've never done it before. You learn about it, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise, and then you think, how can I make this better? And this is the best way to invest in your own life and your own future. You've got to make mistakes. You've got to learn from those mistakes. You've got to think how to either keep from making those mistakes later on, or to be able to jump farther from that mistake because of what you've learned. And this is how you handle it. Okay. So if you are one of those people that you don't have a lot of money and you're really going, I'm going to miss out, the first thing that I want you to remember is this. Okay. Do something. Yes. But I want you to realize that what you do is going to have consequences. And most of the time, they will be bad consequences. Okay. So if you are led along by people going, oh, look and try this. Oh, look and try this. Oh, look, this is a great thing to go ahead and put a lot of money into. This has made me a ton of money, and therefore it's going to make you a ton of money. Then just remember that chances are it's not going to happen for you. Okay. What you want to do is find out, first of all, if you've never done it before, if what you plan on putting your money into is going to give you the same amount of reward back to you. Go back to that car for a second that I was talking about. If you buy $3,000 worth of a vehicle, you expect to get at least $3,000 worth of mileage out of that vehicle at the very least. And even then, you want it to get much more than that. Okay. $3,000 hopefully will get you 1 year's worth of driving on that particular vehicle. And that would probably be more like $9,000 to $10,000 worth of amount of doing what you need to go ahead and do. So if you can only get $3,000 out of that vehicle, you're at a break even, and that's not a good thing. You want to be able to get better than that. So you need to go ahead and start understanding that what you've got here may not always be the best thing to go ahead and take right now and get what you absolutely have to get at this particular moment. You may have to wait for a little bit longer to get what you need. And in doing so, you can then go ahead and start learning, because you're doing something by learning about what it is you want to go ahead and invest in. So if you want to go ahead and put your $3,000 into a Nissan because you've heard Nissans are great and they're going to go ahead and last you for a long time, well, once again, you can go ahead and you can start doing research into that to find out as much as you can before you actually go ahead and put your skin in the game and invest that money and go from there. This is always a good thing. But if you are still afraid that what you're going to do is lose money, then chances are that's exactly what's going to happen. So you need to go ahead and take your money and put it into a savings account of some sort, not necessarily into a bank. You want to go ahead and put it into a place where you cannot touch it easily. It's set aside for the future when bad things are going to happen. And if you put it into a savings account, it's going to be very easily pulled out for little things, such as you want to go ahead and go to a restaurant, or you want to go out to a movie, or you really need to get gas so you can get to work, or you need to go ahead and get another tire, or you need to go ahead and use it for something piddly like your rent's late and you need to go ahead and pay the rent. Never a good thing to go ahead and do. The money you want to set aside is not easily touched. That's why I went ahead and started investing in gold and silver in the first place, was because I knew it was going to be difficult for me to change it into the cash if necessary. And I was not always going to be guaranteed that I would get back the same amount of money that I put into it in the first place. So it's a good store of the money if I need it in the future for something bad that's going to happen, but not necessarily something that I would use right now for rent. Do it, then learn about it, then think about it, make it better, and repeat the process. Do some more of it. Learn more, think more, do more, learn more, think more. And it continues to be an upward spiral. And before you know it, you're going to be joining me on the edge and going, man, I wish I knew all of these things years ago. but this is going to be great for you because then you can go ahead and start teaching the same thing to other people so that when everything busts and falls apart and we've got a currency that's losing every bit of value that it's got, and we've got a stock market that's gone ahead and crashed at least a 50% drop, and we've got real estate that's gone ahead and become sane because all the prices have gone from the median price of $250,000 plus in the country and it's dropped back down to $70,000 where it needs to be, then you're going to be in a position where you can actually do something about it. And this will be great for you. You've been listening to Standing on the Edge. Here's a shout out to my friends watching today, Lee Stroud and Dean Hicks, and I sure appreciate you going ahead and doing so. I want you to go ahead and remember, smash that thumbs up, smash that like button if you're watching me on YouTube. If you're watching me on Facebook, then make sure you go ahead and share this video with somebody else as well. Don't forget, if you want to go ahead and be a partial sponsor to Standing on the Edge, send me an email at joinmeattheedge@gmail.com. Send me a text to 470-554-2134, and I will get you the link to the GoFundMe page that I've got set up to be able to do so. $1 is all I need to go ahead and make you a partial sponsor. My next show is going to be next Thursday, January 13th. Again, as always, at noon. But until then, I want you to remember to expand your awareness. Think of something every single day to help you on your own path. And hopefully soon, I'll see you joining me on the edge. I hope you have a great weekend. Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.